Back in late May of 2025, I talked about reports suggesting that Marathon will likely be delayed, given that there have been rumblings behind the scenes that Sony has canceled marketing in certain regions. And it looks like that report turned out to be accurate. And frankly, the writing was on the wall, given how Marathon was completely non-existent in recent events like Sony State of Plays and Summer Game Fest and the like. But yeah, two sources relayed that they've heard Bungie pull the plug on Marathon marketing, among them being Forbes' Paul Tassi, who said that at the start of this month, Bungie pulled the plug on its main Marathon marketing plan, which was going to have a new trailer in June. And then not long after, Colin Moriarty from Sacred Symbol said, "I was told by someone familiar with marketing plans in a key overseas market that there are now no plans to do paid marketing for a Marathon at all. I don't know if those plans were affected by what has recently happened or if that has always been the plan or whatever, but it is considered a fairly unusual move for a game of this high profile." And by what happened, he's of course referring to the discovery that Marathon plagiarized artwork from this particular artist. They proved it and got Bungie dead to rights on this. Like, it's not even a question. It's not an allegation. It is exactly what happened. That, combined with the fact that Marathon itself as a game has gotten mixed reception, both in marketing materials and gameplay impressions alike. Beyond that, when it comes to the player base of Marathon, based on how it performed in the alpha, you can see how quickly players dropped off, how poorly Marathon did in retaining retention for both players who were checking it out and on social media from streamers and viewers and the like. The general consensus was that Marathon just doesn't have the legs, the bones, the feature completeness, and content for it to be released at $40, and it's stand out enough from other extraction shooters for it to become a major success. The general consensus was Marathon needs to be delayed, needs to be spruced up, and it needs to ship with more content. And so fast forward to June 17th, 2025, and we essentially have a scenario that we all predicted. Marathon is in fact getting delayed. So this is a post that Bungie published on their official website, which reads as follows: Marathon development update. Thank you not only for your passionate feedback around the Marathon reveal and alpha playtest, but also for your patience while we took the time to listen closely and chart our next steps. Through every comment and real-time conversation on social media and Discord, your voice has been strong and clear. We have taken this to heart, and we know we need more time to craft Marathon into the game that truly reflects your passion. After much discussion within our development team, we have made the decision to delay the September 23rd release. The alpha test created an opportunity for us to calibrate and focus the game on what will make it uniquely compelling: survival under pressure, mystery and lore around every corner, raid-like endgame challenges, and Bungie's genre-defining first-person shooter combat. We're using this time to empower the team to create the intense, high-stakes experience that a title like Marathon is built around. This means deepening the relationship between the developers and the game's most important voices, our players. And then they detail some of the stuff that they're planning to spruce up and fix or overhaul or enhance. Some of our immediate focus areas will be upping the survival game, more challenging and engaging AI encounters, more rewarding runs with new types of loot and dynamic events, making combat more tense and strategic. The big complaint about Marathon was that for an extraction shooter, it just doesn't do the extraction shooter part as well as other renowned titles in that sector and genre, like Hunt, Showdown, and Escape from Tarkov. If you're going to come in with a new game that chases a trend rather than setting one, then you have to take that trend and take it to the next level. You have to find a way to make it stand out. You have to find a way to make it better than the current competition. Marathon just wasn't doing that. It's both a genre of game that doesn't appeal to Bungie fans, and then for extraction shooter fans, they have a product that's better with all the other ones that are out there right now, especially the marquee ones. And so they have to up their game. The extraction shooter component itself has to be rock solid and better than existing products. The article continues, doubling down on the Marathon universe, increased visual fidelity, more narrative and environmental storytelling to discover and interact with, and a darker tone that delivers on the themes of the original trilogy. Now, they don't address the plagiarism stuff at all here. All they say here is that they want to make the game look better and give it a bit of a darker tone. But the thing is that because of the plagiarism controversy and how clearly it was plagiarism, how clearly you can see assets were stolen, people will question anytime they look at Marathon how much of the visual aesthetic is actually, you know, an original Bungie idea versus something that was directly lifted from the artist whose work got stolen. The one thing that got positive feedback surrounding the alpha was that at least it's aesthetically unique, but turns out that might not be the case, or now people will question what's truly unique and what isn't. And finally, they want to add more social experiences, a better player experience for solo and duos, alongside prox chat so social stories can come to life. The better experience for solo and duos, that's an especially big sticking point. A lot of people just don't like the fact that if you do opt to play solo or with duos, you're just at a severe disadvantage, or will just not have a great experience due to the nature of the game and the fact that it was designed around 3 players, but in doing so, it makes the game less accessible, because something like Destiny, you can. There are a lot of options to play solo or with duos. Whereas with Marathon, it's very strict, and you having to have 3 players to have the best experience. So them sprucing up the solo duos experience will definitely make hopefully a significant difference depending on how they. Oh my God! Can you guys just hear everything?
No.
Oh.
I haven't let her in yet because I knew you'd be weird about it.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
Be good, have fun. Don't burn anything down.
I forgot the door was open. Oh, it wasn't. Oh, jeez, you scared me. Love you. I'm keeping this clip forever. Where was I? And then in terms of a new release date, they don't have one. So this delay, as of right now, it is indefinite. It says right here, you'll hear from us again later this fall when we can share the progress you've made alongside the game's new release date. Thank you again for your patience and, much more importantly, your passion. Your continued feedback will help us make Marathon the incredible gaming experience we all know it can be. I think it's a good thing that they haven't announced the new release date yet, because that means they can take as much time as possible instead of confining themselves to a new date that might actually restrict them because it might not be enough time. We'll see how this all pans out. I'm not 100% sure that a big delay is going to be enough to save this game, but we've seen developer surprises before with initial failures that ended up being huge successes. And Bungie itself with Destiny, you know, both Destiny 1 and 2 launched in relatively rough states, and they managed to spruce those experiences up quite a bit. They still had their ups and downs, but generally, Bungie has shown signs of being able to adapt, and we'll see if they can do that with Marathon enough that they can win back a certain level of goodwill. But it's just with the plagiarism controversy and with Marathon being an extraction shooter, a genre that Bungie fans are not as excited about. I don't know, it just feels like Marathon is fighting a much more uphill battle than Destiny did, because Destiny set the trend of live service looter shooters. It's almost like the father of live service looter shooters. It did something that others didn't. Marathon is doing something that's already established. They're just trying to do their own spin on it, but currently their spin on it is just inferior and doesn't stand out as much as it should. It doesn't help that alongside all of this, we've got ex-Bungie developers who've spoken out about what it was like to work at Bungie during Marathon's development, saying things like leadership was extremely toxic and humiliating to work with, and how Bungie leadership needs to be gutted completely. Former developers also spoke to folks like Destiny here from IGN, who relayed that based on what he heard, former developers are saying that leadership really is a big issue and that everything happening to Bungie is because of greed. Just really harsh words to share right here, just really lambasting the leadership at Bungie and how much less they've come to care about, you know, the art form of game making and the fun that players have, and they've just made it very corporate. Some developers spoke to folks like Paul Tassi, who does a lot of coverage on live services, and he was told that prior to the delay of Marathon, the game needed to break into the top 5 NPD sales of the year to be considered a success, to make its money back. And now with the delay inflating the budget because they have to work longer on the game, they really need phenomenal results for this game to be considered a financial success for Sony and Bungie alike. One more thing I want to leave you off with is this statement from Herman Hulst. So there's like a fireside chat that Sony executives did where they talked about some of the ongoing circumstances with Sony, and what was brought up. One of the topics that was brought up was just Sony's pursuit for live services and what's going on with Marathon. And it's interesting to hear Herman Hulst's perspective on everything. This video was released prior to the delay, so that will inform some of the things that he's saying here. But yeah, let's check this out and see what Sony stands on Marathon and what their hopes are for this game.
How committed are you to live game services? Are you going to invest as much capital into live game services as you originally planned?
Yeah, we remain very committed to building a diverse and a resilient live service portfolio. I mean, we have MLB The Show, Destiny 2, Helldivers 2, and these are all really good examples of the type of titles that we're looking to develop.
Helldivers is like
These
one big
titles
exception.
have already established an enduring player experience.
But Destiny you bought out, you know, you didn't build that, Sony. You bought Bungie.
Quite a wide range of different genres. And together that provides a really good foundation for our ambitions in this category.
They've already had to scale back ambitions.
We are continuing to invest in new live services.
From 12 to 6 to even less now.
Such a great
in terms of ongoing
example of the level of success we can achieve if we
actively
get
being developed live
so that
services.
game has been a true breakout success. It's been attracting and retaining significant community and very engaged players since we launched that back in February of 24. And this ongoing success, I think, is further evidenced in how we deal with the monetization. So microtransactions now in that game make up more than half of the revenue. We're also very excited about Marathon's anticipated launch in this fiscal year.
So Marathon.
Speaking of Marathon.
So he said Marathon's launch this fiscal year. So the delay was hinted at prior to the official announcement. He didn't say this September, which was when the game was originally supposed to release. The fact that he said this fiscal year after the actual release date had been announced suggested that internally the game had been delayed. Fiscal year means before March of 2026. So yeah, from September to March of 2026, that's roughly 6 months. That's the most the game can be delayed based on what Herman Hulst said. And from June right now, as of the recording of this video, that means that they have about, you know, at most 9 months of additional development time they can use to spruce everything up. We'll see what the results are on that front. But the discussion continues on Marathon.
What have you learned from your foray into live game services, including Concord? And how does this relate to Marathon and the recent alpha test?
Yeah. So live service, we really see that as a great opportunity for us. But with this great opportunity are some unique challenges associated. So we talked about it, some early success as with Helldivers 2. We've also faced some challenges as with the release of Concord. I think that some really good work actually went into that title, some really big effort. But ultimately, that title entered into a hyper-competitive segment of the market. I think it was insufficiently differentiated to be able to resonate with players. And so we have reviewed our processes in the light of this to deeply understand how and why that title failed to meet expectations and to ensure that we're not going to make those same mistakes again.
That's really funny because Marathon is also entering in a highly competitive market, the extraction shooter genre already being saturated. And the main complaint is that it doesn't quite stand out from the pack. Currently, unless they really spruce up the game before its launch, you know, before the end of fiscal year, currently it's looking like they're kind of repeating the same mistakes as Concord. So, you know, I don't know. These words just kind of fall on deaf ears, him saying they're not going to repeat the same mistakes. It feels like they're just constantly gambling with endeavors that are trend chasing for the sake of what monetization live services can bring, rather than what live services can do to create unique experiences. Just Marathon currently just doesn't feel like a very unique game. And that's the mistake that I feel like is being repeated unless they really spice up what the game has to offer.
As I said earlier, we've introduced much more rigorous processes for validating, for revalidating our creative, our commercial, our development assumptions and hypotheses, and we now do that on a much more ongoing basis. And
it's all just corpo speak.
That's the plan that will ensure that
doesn't
we're
amount to much
investing in the right opportunities at the right time, all while maintaining much more predictable timelines. For Marathon, it's our
a lot of
goal
words
to release a very bold, very innovative and deeply engaging title. It's going to be the first
innovative
title in over a decade. So we're really excited for that release. We're monitoring, we're going through the test cycles, we're monitoring the closed alpha cycle that the team has just gone through. We're taking all the lessons learned, we're using the capabilities that we've built in analytics and user testing to understand how audiences are engaging with the title. And you know, some of that feedback, frankly, has been varied, but it's super useful. That's why you do these testings. And The constant testing and the constant revalidation of assumptions that we just talked about, to me, is just so valuable to iterate and to constantly improve the title. So when launch comes, we're going to give the title the optimal chance of success. And this cycle of test, of iterate, test again, that is such a key component of the live service success, both leading up to launch, but also throughout the life of the game. And we're committed to continuing to leverage our learnings to maximize engagement and player satisfaction throughout the life cycle of the title.
Just a lot of corpo speak, a lot of words that didn't say as much as the amount of words imply. Just throwing out words like this game being unique and innovative, it's just not that. And that really is the core issue of Marathon. It's the kind of corpo speak that doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence that Sony really is trying to innovate with live services. They're just throwing as many live service darts in the dark as possible, and they're hoping that one of them, happens to hit some kind of bullseye. With the failure of Concord, with Marathon not doing so hot, we have heard reports of Sony's initial plans just having to be scaled down significantly. Tons of live service projects got canceled behind the scenes. It sounds like that endeavor is honestly just falling apart, and Marathon just seems to be another tick on that front in that respect, unless they really, really find a way to make it stand out, really find a way to innovate the genre in a way that currently it isn't. But I suppose only time will tell how all of this will play out. In the meantime, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the current state of Marathon, the delay, whether that gives you more hope and optimism for the title's future, or whether you think the delay won't be enough, and what you think about what Herman Hall said about Sony's plans for live services and Marathon as a whole. Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.